Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Top Deck Heroes.
Hey,
I'm,
it's good to be back, everyone.
we took a little break, kind of a no news break, and this week was kind of a big week for news. And I think let's start the top of the hour with the tournament schedule. So, for those of you who watched our year in review 2 weeks ago, we complained an awful lot about not having a tournament schedule, didn't we, Kevin Broberg?
We were not happy.
I don't know. Perhaps somebody at Jasco Games was watching, or they just happened to put their tournament schedule up at the same time. So we shall see. So without further ado, I'm going to put the schedule up here on our stream. This is a new thing for me on OBS, so bear with me, folks. We're going to do a little cutaway here. Huzzah! Here we are. So the tournament schedule for 2017 is up on the screen. One thing I noticed, Kevin Broberg, there are many fewer events this year compared to last
Yeah,
year.
I think there's. I mean, if you count January as being, if we say that February gets two because because there isn't one in January, there's only one event every month. And last year, I think there was more than once where there were actually three events, like 3 out of 4 weekends in a month.
Yeah, and I think this is overall going to be very good for the Player of the Year competition. I think it's going to make things a little tighter. People are going to have to, if they really want to be a serious contender, they got to go to every single event, and they have to perform every time.
Yeah, I think that I definitely appreciate. I know one of the things that I said, one of my pieces of feedback was that it was like you got burned out chasing the Player of the Year. Um, it would like it just forced you to travel so much and so frequently. If anything was going on in your life, you just had to compromise with it. It sucked. And only having 12 events, only like that, turning that travel knob down from 11, I think that's very important.
What I'm also really excited about is I know last year here in New York we normally run the Empire Circuit, and we had to cancel last year just due to the excessive amount of events. I mean, New York had 4 PTCs last year, and our normal Empire Circuit is just 6 events. So,
Yeah,
I think the opening up of the schedule has really allowed other things like the Midwest Circuit, be able to have some breathing room to do their thing. I know I'm going to discuss with the scouts here in New York to get the Empire Circuit back up and running again.
yeah, I think it's really great that we do that. The community does have some leaders who are going to step up and run some more tournaments because 12 events in a year isn't very many all told. But if we have if there are multiple cooks in the kitchen, it makes sense for it's really great that there's now everyone else who might want to step up has room to operate.
So let's, without further ado, let's talk about the schedule. So the as always, PTC. This is only Jasco official tournaments, and PTCs. The winner does get that product plus that plane voucher towards traveling to any UFS event of their choice. And so let's start with the first events coming up here, February 11th to 12th. That is in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's going to be at We Play Games West in Las Vegas. Kevin and I know, are planning to attend pretty much every PTC this year with the more free schedule, and we're looking for. We booked our tickets for that here Monday night.
Yep, this one had the least notice here, but I talked Sean into it, and we're going in.
So, this will be my first Vegas PTC. I've played with the guys out in Vegas a few times before Worlds and Nationals in the past, and we ran the 2K out there last year. So I think this is going to be an exciting event. I won't tell anybody who I'm playing, though. It's a secret.
I'm really excited to despoil this Virgin format.
Alrighty. On that creepy note, 2 weeks later, for those of you Globetrotters, there's going to be an event in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Lab Gaming. I don't think we've been there before, Kevin Broberg. I think this is a new store.
Yeah, this is a place that I know Keenan's talked about a little bit. It's kind of a Smash centric video game, sort of like that's sort of their mission is they want to have a space for people to get together and play for Smash Brothers, as well as sell all the normal hobby store stuff. And they've got a play space, and the Atlanta crew is friends with a lot of the people there. A lot of them came out of the fighting game community, so there's lots of friends there. I think it's really exciting that they might be able to grow the game at this kind of space, and it's really cool to just go to a new venue like this.
Yeah, and then following the event in Atlanta, Georgia, only a couple weeks later, Kevin Broberg, I'm not sure I can make it to this one. Actually,
No?
I think I'm gonna be traveling for something else instead. Actually,
Oh, really? Oh, geez, yeah, that's right.
yeah, I think that
Uh,
week, March 11th and 12th in Omaha, Nebraska, is the PTC at Imagine Games and Hobbies. I believe that weekend I'll actually be at the Gamma Gaming Convention. So I will be missing that one. So Kevin Broberg, you're on your own. You'll have to put some distance between you and me in the Player of the Year race there. Following the Omaha PTC, and Omaha always has a great turnout, by the way. If you want to go to a tournament that's expected to be very large in size, you know, Atlanta, Omaha, definitely good ones to go to if you want to see a lot of players. April 15th to 16th, that's the weekend after the Rochester 1K, is the Little Rock PTC in Arkansas at Imagine Games and Hobbies. I've not been to Arkansas before, so I can't tell you what that's going to be like. But
that's in the South, right? I'm really bad at geography.
yes, Arkansas is in the south. It's like
Okay, cool.
I think it's like next to Texas or something
Okay. Oh,
near
is it
Miss.
is it a Gulf Coast or is it
No, 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 no.
like
I think
northeast?
it sits on top of
Okay.
Louisiana. I think.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Kevin Berber, you're very bad at geography.
What I should be just be doing is sitting here not talking and looking at Google Maps instead. But I'll let everyone know just the kind of guy I am. Like I pick my nose on camera and then ask about it. Like it's just my thing.
Good thing we've got your camera turned off right now. Moving on, and this is
Not
something
actually picking my nose.
I think is really cool.
For the record.
Is the championship schedules for nationals and worlds are up ridiculously early this year. So that's really exciting. May 12th to 14th is the World Championship for UFS. That's going to be at Level Up Expo. And note here that badges for the Level Up Expo are not required for UFS players.
Yep. So I guess this might be one of those things where you kind of get a limited entry if you, along with you sign up for a tournament and then they let you in for the tournament. But maybe you if you want to go to the vendor hall or the dealer hall or go to events at the con, those would require a badge. I'm speculating. I don't actually know that. But it's really great that we can just go you just go and play, just play your game, and the well, I don't know. I think is the entry free? Is it like $5?
I think
But
my understanding is the entry is free. I think that's Jasco's new thing is entry for nationals and worlds is a freebie.
yep, $0. It says on the page for both teams and singles.
Now, Kevin Broberg, I should warn you, I have put together a dynamite team for this year. And, last time I played on a team, I put Giggles and Field on my back and got them on their first piece of cardboard. And, I'm just so sick of seeing my good friend Jesse come so close and not win the tournament. So I think I'm going to, load Luchador up on my back and carry him to his first green card.
Yeah, I think we can agree that the last time he was in the finals, he got Judiced by the member of the team who was elected who was chosen to select the pairings, the team captain, and he picked some very poor pairings. So I have much greater faith in your ability to make those pairings, Sean.
I mean, I may not win any matches, but I'm a great consultant. Okay, after the World Championship in May, there's a break from events until June 10th and 11th in San Antonio, Texas. Kevin Broberg, did you know that Tejas is Spanish for Texas? I read that
That's
somewhere.
pretty amazing, Sean.
Isn't it just?
Now, did you read that or did you hear that? Because that pronunciation was of Mexican Tejas. That was excellent.
I was watching Ken Burns, The West, and there were some first-hand accounts from some Mexican. They were reading it for some Mexican war veterans, and they had called it Tejas.
Okay, because I mean, like if you put an otherwise uninformed upstate New York person up with like, especially like, could you imagine if like someone had like phonetically spelled it Tejas? That would be Tejas. If you're from upstate New York.
I mean, we pronounce Charlotte Charlotte, so I mean,
Yeah.
we're really bad at that. So uh,
Anyway, San Antonio, that's really interesting. I know there's a couple people I know like there's Brian Harris is from Texas. There's uh
well,
crap
remember Kevin Broberg, while you're
one
thinking,
of the Michigan players.
Jasco
Like,
Games was founded in Lubbock, Texas.
yep. And my geography is bad, but I understand that Texas is enormous.
It is
And
it is quite large.
like people talk about like upstate New York, yeah, you're like people hear you're from New York and they say, well, you're like right next. You go to the city all the time, right? Well, it's a 6 hour drive though, man. In Texas, they'd be like, yeah, it's a 6 hour drive. You're right next to it.
Well, I know Jesse and I drove across the Panhandle. That's that little bit at the top
Yep.
last year, and it took several hours to get across just that little bit. I couldn't imagine going across the big bit. All right,
Everything's big in
after
Texas, man.
after
Hopefully,
the
their tournament attendance too. Let's go.
after the Texas PTC is the Rochester PTC, July 15th to 16th in Rochester, New York, at Millennium Games and Hobbies. Millennium has always been super great about hosting us, and they always give us really good space, and the pricing's always really good. And please come to our PTC. I don't want to have to rely on Miles to save us again to get to that 20-person count.
And we not only have one of the best play spaces in the state, if not the best play space. Tons of snacks, tons of drinks, all kinds of stuff. There's even an all-you-can-eat sushi space less than 100 feet away. It's really everything you could ask for from a tournament. Not to mention the absolute pinnacle of competition.
Absolutely. Following the PTC in Rochester is a PTC in Davie, Florida, at the Adventure Game Store. That is a new stop on the list here. I don't think we've had one there before.
Yeah, this is the first time, to my knowledge, there's been a Florida PTC in JASCO history, and I don't know the last time there was I want to say the last Florida events period were things like the South Coast Showdown or something. Like they had their own little tournament series way back in the Sabretooth days. I remember people who won that with Nakaruru or something, like way back.
Yeah, I don't know, Kevin Robert. That event, I might not be able to attend. It's like it's like 400 degrees in Florida that time of year, and there's
Sean, we
like
went there
poisonous
last year, we were
snakes and alligators and pythons and sharks everywhere.
What's the is a swamp kitten? Was the
Swampkins,
really cute alligator?
baby alligators. All right, Kevin
Yeah,
Robert, we're gonna
yeah.
move on. We're gonna
Come
move
on.
on. September
John,
9th.
you can't fall behind the player of the year. Come on.
September 9th and 10th is the second New York stop for the year. That's down at Champion Card Collector in Poughkeepsie, New York. So that's always a good time. Champion Card Collector is a great store. If you want to buy aerosol stuff, you can buy that there too.
I can't speak highly enough of Champion. They've been fantastic to us every time we've been down. The owner is a super old time UFS player, and yeah, it's great to see everybody, and it's a great time everywhere.
But the Rice Krispies were stale last year. The Rice Krispie treats.
Well, the pizza was good.
Pizza was good. After the Poughkeepsie PTC is the National Championship. And that is going to be at the Holiday Inn and Suites in Atlanta. I think the same joint it was at last year. Kevin Broberg, was there really a Waffle House right next to the Holiday Inn?
Yes.
OMG Waffle House.
It was kind of like, it was probably about as far away as for like walking from Millennium to the place that they used to have garbage plates across the street.
So like 50 yards.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. Like you had to walk through the parking lot and cross. It was a 2-lane road, and then there's the Waffle House.
I sure do love me some Waffle House.
There was also a pretty good. There were a couple of pretty good Mexican places. They had like margaritas. They were pretty solid.
after the U.S. National Championship, getting into November, is the Rockford PTC. Kevin Berberg, you won that one last year, didn't you? No, Slam won that
Uh,
one last
yeah,
year.
Slam won that one last year, but the year before that, the inaugural Rockford event, I won, and I got third place. The start of my third place run, I went
And
3-3-1.
Rockford is known for their pizza cake. It's
Oh
like
my
cake but with pizza.
Sean, I just ran a couple miles and like I had a protein shake and I ate some cookies, but I'm really hungry right now. I might like drive into the city to get Chester's Cab pizza cake.
Kevin Berberg,
That's how
I
good
have
I feel right now.
I've
Oh
never
my
ran
God.
several miles ever. Like lifetime running less than a mile. No, that's not true. Next, after that, December 2nd and 3rd is the Reno PTC at Games Galore, which, Kevin, you are the reigning champion of the Reno PTC.
Hey, you're right. I love the events like this where they kind of have a temporal anchor like at the same time every year. Um, I think back in the day we used to be a summer event, although we haven't been recently. But like it's really cool that Rockford and Reno are going to be consistent every year. Like this is just the thing you can chart on your calendar, and that'll become an institution of the game. I hope.
And I think that, we do have one pending event in 2018, and that is the Michigan PTC. Now, this is kind of surprising. We haven't. Michigan's been kind of a cornerstone of the UFS PTC scene for a very long time. In fact, Michigan in general has been a cornerstone of UFS in general. I mean, they've been winning champ cards there since like 2007.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of cornerstones of the UFS calendar, like the September like 25th through 30th, that last weekend in September, that's had a competitive, like a really competitive, really hotly contested pro tour for many years. I know like Garrett has been there. There's probably been as much cardboard as in any PTC walking into that room every time. I guess the only one that probably comes close is like the Atlanta PTCs, where they have the whole Lions Dance crew. Um,
Well, one thing I find very interesting is there seems to be a focus this year, on the stores that are still on the list of stores who carry UFS and overall places that had the attendance numbers from last year to justify another PTC this year. Note that no Amsterdam PTC, they misfired last year. No Cali PTCs, and I think there was one or two
mhm.
of them that didn't fire last year either. So I mean,
That's a
here,
good point. Yeah, it's an interesting mix of really well attended PTCs like Atlanta and Rockford and Reno, and then there are several complete newcomers here. They're just we're going to roll the dice here and see if you guys can really get your crew together.
and I think the only two crews left from the very beginning of the Jasco era PTCs is Atlanta and Rochester. So I think it's a really good mix. There's old towns, new towns, and towns that just plain perform. So I think it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, I'd really love to see a kind of a complete event calendar that and I know Jazz Games has they've shown the capacity for this, although they haven't quite updated it yet. With all of these events, plus all of these set releases, plus all of the kind of if they can put the third party things onto there, or either a first party Jasco Games calendar or someone else putting up a Google calendar, just so we can kind of graphically compare. Well, okay, Street Fighter is going to come out on this date, and obviously, I guess we don't have these yet. We don't have Cowboy Bebop or Mortal Kombat dates, but I'd love to see who exactly is going to have these the first times, the first shots at these new things.
Absolutely. And I gotta give Jasco Games credit as far as their schedule for this year, having nationals and worlds set at the beginning of January.
Yeah,
Other than the years where we were at Gen Con, where Gen Con is Gen Con, you know when and where Gen Con's going to be probably for the next 10 years. I think it's a really big deal that we're back to having the schedule for the year fleshed out. So very excited about that. I'm going to get rid of the cutaway here, and we're going to bring back up our beautiful faces.
oh man, I just remember that you turned off my camera, so I've been like gesticulating over here and whatever, and it's not showing up at all as it.
Well, everybody just saw that, so
Making up for lost time. Yeah.
Okay, so that was our big story. Other stories in the news, we got our Blood Omen buy list up at rochesterccg.com. We had a major restock over the weekend. I went a little nanners and opened like 2 cases of product. Got us back up and restocked, and a lot of cards have sold. I would not be surprised, folks, if boxes, if people don't continue opening boxes, that there are multiple ultra rares in this set that break the $30 mark.
Yeah, I think that this is a set that I think still no one. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see cards kind of go from, especially like some of these ultra rares, just go from completely from zero to hero overnight. Um, like I would be really, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some metagame in Las Vegas in February, and then a completely different metagame 2 weeks later in Atlanta, and then a third metagame with the same cards legal in Omaha in March. And these events are really actually 2 weeks apart from each other. Even I think that you'll see a lot of shift, a lot of changes, both as people polish their decks, as people discover new things, and as people discover. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's kind of a cyclical nature in this, where this one tactic preys on the second archetype, preys on this third, like, and then the third thing goes, the snake eats its tail and it goes back to the start.
See,
Um,
I don't think so. I think what we're going to see here in Las Vegas, and those guys in Las Vegas do play a lot. There's going to be some folks who do have some semi-polished decks, but I think some of the oldies and goodies are going to show up as well. There's going to be a Ryu, and I'm sure there's going to be a Ryu, and I'm sure it's going to make top cuts. I'm sure there's going to be a Felicia. I'm sure she's going to make top cuts. Dimitri will be there.
Sean, you need to check your history, man. Felicia has not topped consistently. I don't know if people have signed up with her consistently. Well, I mean, when she does, and there's a strong player there and everything, she usually does fairly well.
Well,
But
you
she's not
haven't
a terribly popular deck.
well you haven't registered as Felicia in almost 4 months, so that's why.
I know. Yeah, you're not wrong.
But there's gonna be some oldies and goodies. I definitely think Ryu's still completely viable. Dimitri, I think,
Oh
is
yeah.
viable. Mature's banned, so she's right out. But I think I bet
Yeah,
you there's at least 2 or 3 characters that were good before Blood Omen came out that are still
yeah,
gonna be good and still gonna make top cuts after it comes out.
yeah. I totally agree. Like, I think if you take all the top 16 characters at nationals, I'd expect you know 4 of them to still show up in some. You still to remain competitive in every event, even like let's put a line at like they're within upgrading one draw or a loss to the next level of being in top 8 or being tied for top 8.
Hmm.
So like your ninth and 10th places might still have these guys, just like our national champion was ninth place at the Pro Tour the week before that. I'd say that's like my line for competitive. Even filtering out that someone has to decide to use that strategy in the event.
Hmm.
I think the thing that like you see Felicia not show up so much because she's like she kind of operates in a couple different dimensions. It's hard to balance it sometimes, and she just gets blown up by people. Like you just play against the focused aggro deck that draws good 2 times, you get blown the hell up.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't really know. I think there's like I didn't want people to think that only new things are going to be good here in a couple weeks
Oh
in
yeah,
Las Vegas. But I think you're right in that there's going to be a meta that comes out of Las Vegas, but I don't think that's necessarily the meta. I think this is the first time people are going to go out and play their truly competitive decks. It's not going to be, I show up and try playing Lily because I think she's cool. You're going to show up with your tuned whatever deck because you want to win that
yeah,
plane ticket.
yeah. We're still gonna see people showing up with Tengu Dive because they just hate fun. They just want to Tengu Dive people to death.
And I think something that's different about Blood Omen compared to the last set that came out is overall, I think in Battle for Power, the ultra rares that were really, really good or really sought after, I think the community mostly knew what they were going to be at release or shortly after. But
That's what I was really trying to get at. Yeah,
that set shook down really fast. Flying Spear is super good, stuff like that. But Blood Omen hasn't sorted that out yet, and I think the market's not going to stabilize until after that. Kevin Burberg, I'm going to step away for just a moment. I'm going to let you run the show for just a minute, okay?
okay, sure.
All right, I'll
Yeah,
be
I'm
back.
scrolling through this list of Blood Omen Ultra Rares. There's 27 Ultra Rares in the set, and I legitimately count 15 of them that I think could be, if not absolutely defining of the format, they could be like things that you don't sign up for without a plan, without having a plan for it. Like I could not that that's what they're going to be, but I can imagine a situation that makes it that way. Even just a card like Mystic Cyclone can have a completely outsized impact on the game, and especially you get a character like Basilio San Juan that can loop it. This is just a really such a powerful interaction that I can imagine this card becoming a chase ultra rare. Even though it has it requires you to be on 3 symbols to absolutely maximize it. Really requires you to have at least two or the death symbol. Probably death is probably its best ability. You make your opponent lose 2 vitality. But cards like Critical Split, Helligate Executioner, Pulse Flare, White House, Jagnar's Thundering Torture, the Fury package with Dazzling Maelstrom and Tempest Circle. Those could be like I can imagine that deck just blowing up a whole tournament, like rattling off a huge undefeated streak or whatever, or at least blowing up everyone who doesn't just counter aggro it. I think it's a deck that scales up very well and also has a very potent offensive package. Although if you're playing Sasha, who you kind of have to, your defense isn't great. But like Silver Fang Salvo, Transmutation, one of the I think probably the most chased card right now in the set. And if you don't want to play it and you have it, you should probably ship it off because someone will be really happy to have it. Is Breath of the Jade Dragon, probably the sweetest combo-tastic card that's also like Maylin's favorite thing. And if you don't like Maylin, you're kind of a monster. Maylin's great. She's awesome. She's really cool. But yeah, Cannonade is incredibly powerful. Final Curse Entombment, 10,000 Souls of Hell, Guardian Slasher. They're all powerful enough. They all have big enough effects that I can imagine that they dominate the format somehow, or that you sit down across from them and they just blow you the hell up because you didn't see it coming, and then you can't not necessarily completely change your game, but you have to adapt to it in a big way. And I think that's what I'm really excited to see in these tournament results. On top of just like what combinations of cards are most effective in the abstract, is how do different groups of cards kind of predate on one another? How does like Cannonade line up against people who are going to play a million high blocks and like really dedicate themselves to that, versus people who are going to like show up with a bunch of copies of Stop and go down that whole rabbit hole. And I think that we'll see a lot of that's what I'm expecting to see, is a lot of kind of different groups of people kind of going in different directions and then kind of spinning down their own separate rabbit holes. And ultimately, we're still playing the same, like we all have the same rules, but kind of the unspoken, unseen rules. Like you have to be able to not lose to stop. Like you can't play an all-in deck and just get stopped and then lose. Some places that won't be true. Some places no one will care about stop, and then like your Ryu's, I think, is one of the characters who's like that's specifically targeting. Those characters will go crazy. Or I know Jeremy Ray has spoken a lot about kind of his concern with stop is kind of defensive poke oriented characters like his own, who can't afford to play a bunch of copies of Short Fuse or whatever. Those characters having a really bad time, and it occurs to me I can go look at Twitch chat too. So if you're watching and you want to give me an excuse to talk to you,
No excuses, Kevin Broberg. I'm back.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, we experienced a little technical difficulties, and I did not want that to affect the show. So back to talking about Blood Omen. Buy list is up. The prices, I think, are going to continue to shake down. And be aware, we are running a special right now. Buy 2 boxes of Blood Omen. Get the Blood Omen release mat for free. So if you're on the fence about getting more Blood Omen, do that now. There was some bad news this week in other card games. One of our competitors.
Ooh, yeah. Which do you want to cover first? We have
2. Let's start with the one I'm more familiar with, and that is Dragon Ball Z CCG. Panini announced this last week that they are discontinuing the Dragon Ball Z TCG. So I know there are some people in the community who play both games, and I'm sorry to hear that that happened to them. I think Kevin, you and I both remember when Fantasy Flight discontinued UFS, and
Yeah.
it was rough. It was rough. I actually had stumbled on the old FFG forums the other day, and I found my post I made after they killed the game, and it had some four-letter words that we don't like to use on this show. So, uh, if anybody
Yeah.
out there plays
If
the
your
DB, go ahead,
if
Kevin.
your friends play DBZ or if you play DBZ, we have only the kindest words. We're sorry for your loss. Um,
But we welcome you to the wonderful world that is the Universal Fighting System.
yeah, there's kind of an exciting moment where I guess the kind of the explanation for the game ending is that they wanted to use the license for a new card game. They didn't want to compete with themselves. Kind of the parent companies there. So it's exciting to see where playing having Dragon Ball Z collectible cards is going to be going in the future. Dragon Ball Super.
Come
Uh,
on, UFS.
yeah, please, Daddy, big money, or like please, big money. Like we want it too. Um,
Someday. And then Kevin Broberg, one of the things in UFS for the other bad news that players often struggle with, and there is a lot of emotion for and against and for an action, and that comes to bans. Tell us about some bannings by Wizards of the Coast.
yeah, so Magic the Gathering banned some cards in Standard in kind of a stunning move. There's been a lot of kind of discussion, and I guess actually it was really driven by social media in this case. So they kind of asked social media, like, what do you think of this format? And the general opinion was it sucks. And so they actually are releasing a set in next week. This is very soon, in any case. And they decided before the set released, they were going to axe 3 cards out of Standard just for the health of the format because they thought, we got a new set coming up, but we want to make sure it's really healthy. And they also announced that they're going to have another ban announcement. So they have a very well set in stone time when they announce bans, which is just before a set releases. And now they're adding another one 5 weeks after the Pro Tour in case things start getting bad. They have a pre-built safety valve there. So it sounds like Magic's going to be taking a more active role in policing their formats to make sure they don't get too crazy, which is really interesting. They also, in addition to their 3 standard bans, they also banned 2 cards in Modern, which is a little less exciting because they've the Modern ban list is an acknowledged feature of the format that they're going to kind of have a safety valve there because that format does not rotate. So where Standard every 2 years they drop 3 sets out of it or whatever.
Now, 3 bans in Standard is kind of unprecedented for Magic, isn't it?
So it's tough to say unprecedented. They once banned about 12 cards and then a month later another one.
It's
Way back in the day.
unusual.
It's extremely unusual. They have only, I believe, banned cards in Standard once in the past decade. I could be getting that slightly wrong. I could be getting that timetable slightly wrong about when Mirrodin Block happened. But the last time they banned cards in Standard was Cawblade with Jace the Mind Sculptor and Stoneforge Mystic. Jace the Wallet Sculptor, as he was colloquially known. One of the first $100 Magic cards. Probably the first Standard Legal $100 Magic card, I think. Tarmogoyf might have been up there first.
So,
But that's it's really amazing how Magic is really, really kind of in my mind, maybe it's just a factor of they write a lot, but I feel like they're kind of like they've innovated a lot of things in the ways they manage the card games, but now they're kind of pulling a card out of other people's playbooks, which is banning things for the health of the format rather than because they are like being absolutely forced into it as a last resort, as it often has been when like the game is going to die if we don't do this, so let's ban these cards.
so we'll see how Wizards continues doing things like that in the future. So for the second half of the show, or for the last 20 minutes rather, we kind of got a hodgepodge of different questions here that we were kind of asking ourselves over the last week, and this actually just came up in the chat. Asking, of the following Blood Omen Ultra Rares, which do you think will have the biggest impact? Critical Split, Cannonade, Guardian Slasher, Pulse Flare, and there's no number 5.
Yeah, and then his number 5 is fill in the blank. What's your pick for the 5th bet? Like for the most powerful one that isn't named above.
See,
Or
I think Kevin Broberg, before you start, the most impactful card in Blood Omen is not an ultra rare. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's a common, and that's Stumwaffle. I played a
yeah,
deck with Stumwaffle this last week, and if you could get two of those online, just two of them in your card pool, it feels incredibly powerful.
yeah. I think the nuttiest thing about that card in my head is that it is also a ranged attack that shares two symbols with one Tengu Dive. But if you're on fire for some silly reason, like fire being a great symbol, it has stun one too on top of everything else.
And it still combos with Shield Ram.
Yup. So yeah,
But
it's a whole lot of action.
yeah, so I'm gonna go off script there and say my number 5 is Stumwaffle. Um,
Yeah.
is
I think Sturmwaff and Stop are probably the two non ultra rare cards that are kind of the shoe ins for the top pick for impact. An offensive card and a defensive card as things shake out.
of the four cards that were listed, Critical Split, Cannonade, Guardian, Slasher, and Pulse Flare. Like I said, like we talked about before, the format is really wide open. We're not even sure here in our own laboratory what the best thing is right now.
Yeah.
But I think
Far from it.
I'm gonna have to put a toss up for Cannonade and Pulse Flare being the number one for me. Situationally, especially if you have a deck that can generate a bunch of face downs, or you're playing against a deck that makes you have face downs and they're completely free to speed boost,
Yeah.
you're gonna wreck their day.
Yeah, like if you're in a format, or if someone in your play group is playing Dimitri every week, Pulse Flare is definitely the biggest one out of it, or is probably the biggest one out of those. I can't actually say that with complete confidence because I think Dimitri is not fantastic about blocking fast high attacks, and Candidate is pretty good at killing Dimitri.
But
Um,
doesn't Dimitri have he does have access to revoke?
oh
Uh,
yeah, his revoke card handed and enough high blocks in any case. Yeah, you're right.
so yeah, I don't think Dimitri is completely free. Oh, he also has
Oh yeah,
access
yeah.
to Dust in the Wind.
He
Uh,
has he has revoke. He has scorn to like you just put scorn beauty down, and you're like, oh man, my powerful. Dang.
oh man, my EX.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, oh, I'm gonna EX for plus 12 speed. Yo, how about minus 24 speed in response? Thanks.
As far as the other cards on the list, I feel like to maximize critical split, you do have to jump through some hoops. But if you can find a way to easily jump through the hoops, that is probably the max value card on that list of things
Yeah,
going really well for you.
I really like the combination of critical split and the Tengu Man common attack, Kama Itachi. Because it's a mid attack that's hard to block, and the biggest problem with mid attacks is that they get blocked. Like you get blocked by Templar, and you just cry. But when they block Kamatachi, you get a little reach around. It untaps your foundations. But then it satisfies your combo condition. It peaks your next control check, so you can play your second attack with some confidence. And also, there's a cute little combo with Enlist where you can kind of get the second momentum to really turn your critical splits up to 11.
A place where you want to be careful with critical split though is if you're playing against a deck that has reversals that can count a potato, and you try to do a critical split combo, you might be dead before you have a chance to resolve the two multiple moves.
Yeah, it turns out unlike two of the most notable multiple attacks recently, Rain Flush and Flying Yamato Spear, multiple doesn't have safe and like multiple and safe don't really go together that well.
Mm-hmm.
You actually can get punished pretty badly, and the initial critical split is only 3 speed high, which is something that almost everyone will be able to block because if you can't block a 3 speed high, you're going to get Tengu dived and you're going to lose. So it's a little bit of risk there.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're playing a deck and you know that they're running Navos especially, I would not want to multiple out a critical split, especially if you could look at their stage area and be like, well, they can count to 40 damage. You better not multiple, because at that rate, you're already at 5 progressive difficulty unless you have a way to clear your card pool.
Well, you do. Are you counting the one free clear your card pool from critical splits enhanced? So I mean, critical splits. If you can combo it, it's basically like Rain Flush, where it pays for one of its multiples for free.
Yeah, but you still have to go jump through a mid attack hoop. So,
Yes. Yeah, the combo condition there is very real. It's a real challenge to get through that. Hey,
Now,
actually, that card chains with Graven Castle Ruins, doesn't it? Holy crap!
it does. I mean, if you could satisfy the combo and you don't have to worry about your opponent playing a reversal, that card kills dead.
Yes.
But if you,
If you want to go over the top, you could also Graven Castle and have them be 13 damage multiples at insane speed.
yeah,
But I think that my choice for the number 5 here is probably White House from among the ultra rares, because the question is what has the biggest impact, and I think that, like, and as I was talking about when you were away, Sean, I think that different groups are going to see different things happen with this
hmm
format. And some groups, I personally really enjoy the card Dodge. There's a lot of things that you might be trying to do that Dodge just completely shuts down, especially if you're trying to like rely on direct hit or throw attacks and have if this attack deals damage triggers, Dodge destroys those. Because not only does your attack not deal damage, it rounds the half rounded down, and then it also snipes one of your foundations. Really good at breaking up kill turns. And White House ruins Dodge, and there's also a bunch of different characters who have kind of fairly powerful incremental advantage engines, like Athena or Zoe, who just add a face down to their card pool every turn. And then this is plus one card on top of your incremental advantage you already have. And with that kind of snowball effect, you can really kind of run away with some games, and force your opponent to either have some deadlock cards or critical split type effects to even have a chance of coming back and competing with that. And so between just completely hosing this kind of really, like, Dodge is a high impact card, Templar is a high impact card, Stop is a high impact card. White House, if your opponent is playing those high impact cards, has a huge impact too, because it just shuts down that whole way to play the game of that whole set of action cards.
Kevin, would you
Um,
say that against actions, the White House is a trump card? Cricket, cricket, cricket.
can you can you explain what you mean?
I,
I think I get it.
I am inclined to agree, though, that I haven't played with a ton of the new Ultra Rares yet, but I have had a chance to play a deck with the White House in it. And I was playing against Jeff, who was one of our locals. Everybody knows him as Giggles. And he went to play a Templar. And after you added your block modifier plus progressive difficulty
Plus
plus
speed.
speed, he had to make a check against, already he had to make a check against a 7, and he got -4 more. So he was making a check against 11. He had to tap out because, of course, he checked a 5. It's Giggles.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that really set up the rest of my kill turn where I was just able to get in there. And I think that's one of the things the White House really does against those actions is chances are pretty good people are still going to be able to play them if they really want to. But that's going to really soften them up. I mean, a dodge with the White House in play, that's effectively on a 9.
It's a
And,
steep cost.
and
Yeah.
remember, for kids who don't know, if you fail the control check for your dodge, you still pay the vitality.
It's very bad news.
Yeah, you don't want to fail the control check on your dodge. And dodge is going to feel really silly in your hand if you're going to have to check against a 9 to block, and it doesn't have a block on it. So if you're not going to play its response, it's pretty much a dead card.
It's review step fodder, and that's not where you want to be. One last card, I do, and once again, different strokes for different folks. Different cards will matter in different groups. I know if you played against Sean O'Brien 4 years ago, back when Liu Chen was legal, you figured out how to deal with reversals, but that is not necessarily something that everyone in the community has done, and that is not something that every deck is constructed to be able to do. And if you kind of don't know how to deal with it, I think Guardian Slasher deserves its one check and more. That card can completely ruin entire game plans, and it is extremely potent and also a little bit hard to block, and really just gives you headaches when you aren't expecting them. So I'm going to give that one credit for potentially the biggest impact. I think that if I play against it, I'm going to dismantle you very easily and watch you pay 4 life for no reason and laugh my brain out later. But there are people who will get wrecked by it, and maybe I'll have a deck that gets wrecked by it too. No guarantees there.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Guardian Slasher compared to other reversals that have pseudo turn ending effects, and we've had a few over time. There's been a hoop you have to jump through. This attack has to deal damage, or there's a hoop you have to jump through. The only hoop to jump through to end your opponent's attack turn with Guardian Slasher is losing 4 vitality. That's a big cost, don't get me wrong. But, you could be in a situation potentially where your opponent, has 5 attacks in their hand. And
Yes,
maybe
that is the absolute dream.
they've attacked you maybe once or twice, they've been drawing more moves, and then you effectively end their turn. And
Could
that
you
lets you,
imagine playing this in Jasco Eternal with Paul Bindner and putting 2 attacks on top of your opponent's deck, and then having this to reversal them with? Oh,
I'll see Kevin
so
Broberg. I would rather play this. Actually, I don't know.
in standard with an opponent, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're not going to find any opponents for Jasco Eternal, unfortunately. But the one I was thinking of running this card with is one of my old girlfriends. She has 8 legs and large breasts.
Is she legal in standard in any forms?
No, but she is legal in Jasco Eternal
Ah, pay 6 life, end your turn forever. I like that. I can get behind that.
till the end of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
She's basically a 5-headed Hydra.
hmm
You got to cut her heads. Like just hit her. Just like that. Well, there goes one head. Now I'm gonna block her to be high for 5. And then she starts p-touching you instead. You're like, shit, this got way harder now.
Yeah.
It's like a
Alright.
plan B. Like the p-touches aren't gonna do it. You're just like, well, I'm gonna Garden Slash you instead. And this is one of these is probably good.
So yeah, I think that's kind of our thoughts overall on the meta. I know Kevin was talking about it while I was taking care of the technical difficulties. Is as far as what's going to happen with the meta, I think the most confident answer I can give you right now is I don't know.
Yep. I absolutely agree. No one. I don't know. Nobody knows. It depends. My answer is, what do you think? Like anyone who watches this, like just message me on Facebook, like post on the forums. Here's what I think people are going to play a lot of, and maybe we can get some swarm intelligence on this and figure it out. Just what's exciting, what's cool.
Well, I think we're gonna like we said at the top of the hour. There's gonna be a shift in the meta for sure here the 3rd week of February, and then probably another dramatic one at the end of the month.
Yep. Yeah. I would bet very confidently that we will see 3 different winners in these events, and I would probably even say we won't see the same deck in all 3 top 8s.
Really?
I think that no event will hit all 3, or no character will hit all 3, or let's say no character plus symbol combination.
Okay.
Because I think that and that's still gambling that Ryu is worse than I think he is a little bit, or that people adapt to Ryu more. That's really what it is. That everyone in the room adapts to Ryu, which is very difficult to do.
I don't know, Kevin Broberg. I might take you up on that. I have a crisp Canadian $20 bill right here.
Oh man, do I bet a 5 against that? How does this work?
Okay, so if you're going to use American money, you're going to want to bet about $3.50.
All right, deal.
We'll see. Kevin Broberg might have a plastic Canadian $20 bill in his future.
Yeah, my confident bet is that you don't see the same deck winning twice.
For sure.
My 50-50 confident bet is you don't see any deck in all 3 top 8s.
So Kevin Broberg, can you run the same deck in all 3 events so I can keep my plastic money?
I mean, if I win all 3 events with this, when I play the same deck twice, I am fine paying you for that.
Alrighty, kids. Normally, here at the end of the show, we do the upcoming events. We did talk about the Jasco events upcoming back here at the start of the show, but I am going to look up real quick the good old Midwest circuit because there are a couple of private events coming up.
Yeah, we've got, I believe this the end of this month. We've got the first one in that series. Let me try to dig it up over here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I did not think to look this up. The Midwest Circuit Series Stop 1. So that is coming up here on January 28th. So that is kind of the first event to lead off the season is the Midwest event. And, I would watch that and maybe get some ideas for your decks for Las Vegas. But, one thing I
Yeah.
saw in a thread this week about building decks for UFS is don't necessarily net deck off the PTC results because
Uh,
the format's still going to be very, very unsolved at that point.
mhm. Sean, I could talk to you for an hour about net decking.
I'm sure you could. You've
It's
done it
it,
enough.
it's hey man, hey
Ooh.
man, hey man. You stand on the shoulders of giants, all right? And sometimes you show up with Cinco and you get top 8 in teams in 4-3 in singles, 25th place in singles. Um, but we got an action-packed schedule coming up here. We got in 2 weeks we've got our first event. We got the Midwest Series, which is not actually standard for the record, by the way. It's the no KOF format.
It's a
Um,
weird Midwest format.
then we've got 2 weeks after that, we've got the first PTC of the season in Las Vegas. Then the second Midwest Series the week after that on the 18th, the weekend of the 18th, and then the weekend after that, we're back at the PTC schedule in Atlanta. So it's gonna be intense. Then 2 weeks after that, we've got another PTC out in Omaha.
And
So
then, the first large major of the year is the second weekend of April rather, and that is the Rochester 1K out in St. Louis. Don't forget that that's coming up. So this first quarter of a little more than the first quarter of 2017 is going to be action packed with UFS, and hopefully it's going to be action packed with UFS coverage.
yeah, that's the real dream. I want you to sit on your couch and be able to experience this game. That's my hope and my dream. And speaking of that, actually, I know that we have, I believe, one Mr. Brian Harris. Let me actually double check that. No, it's not Brian Harris at all. It's Sean Matsuda. Or maybe this isn't actually. I feel like this person has a Facebook pseudonym. Actually, this is Brian Harris. Damn it, I was wrong. I was right the first time. He is streaming on Twitch. He's gonna be streaming some Octagon matches tonight. So that's gonna be pretty awesome.
So, keep up with the content. Go out and play some UFS. Buy some product at rochesterccg.com, and we will see you next week. Have a good night,
All right,
everybody.
bye everybody.